Well, happy November. Hopefully, better things this month. October wasn't the best. October was effectively cancelled by the United States shutdowns, right? The government shutdowns amidst other things. But hopefully, November, which is also traditionally a green month, would do much better. In the last 5 years, it was the first time that BTC apparently closed in the red, but we know why that happened. I think that we all got a little bit preoccupied by the macro events, by some of the announcements. I think a lot of people got sidelined when it comes to XRP by the Western Union thing, and obviously by the ETFs, the Solana, Litecoin, and HBAR ETFs that were approved and went live, while the XRP one got delayed or deferred or deterred, or whatever expression you want to use. But it turns out that we now have a date of somewhere in mid-November, at least for one of them to go live. There might be others that might happen just afterwards, or maybe even before, depending on what happens with the shutdowns. Having said that, there is a piece of news that landed a little bit quietly. I think I didn't see anybody else talk about it. One of the largest organizations in the world, definitely one of the largest when it comes to fintech and just technology generally. I say fintech because even though they're not particularly fintech themselves, a lot of fintech organizations use them. They're kind of the chain link of the traditional world of technology. I'm talking about Amazon Web Services, AWS, a subsidiary of Amazon themselves, listing Ripple as a partner. So basically what this means is one of the largest organizations in the world that provides technological access to pretty much most of the large tech firms and non-tech firms. You wouldn't believe how many organizations use Amazon Web Services. I think you might believe it by what happened when they had the outage just a couple of weeks ago. That organization is listing Ripple as a partner. What this means is that they're going to be using RippleNet and the XRP ledger effectively for payments. So a lot of these organizations that aren't working directly with Ripple and using Ripple payments directly will effectively be using them indirectly via AWS. That is huge, but obviously that just went quietly because obviously we're in XRP FUD era. And the reason the FUD is perpetuated and pronounced more prominently than the good news is, of course, because we're about to experience the greatest pump in the history of existence. I know I exaggerate a little bit, but yeah. And obviously the powers that be want to shake you out. They don't want you holding on to your tokens. And I feel that Ripple themselves obviously are less concerned about retail because, as they've proved time and time again, they are effectively now a business facing company only. So yes, the retail is there for experimental purposes, for the preliminary testing and stuff. We were a beta test effectively. The real mainnet is industry. So we're talking about, again, the likes of AWS, the likes of, the colossal organizations that are indeed partnered with Ripple. So when you hear things like PayPal and Western Union and all those guys pick Solana and Polygon and all these other alternatives, and laughably, Ethereum and L2s. So not only are they depending on L2 that is depending on Ethereum, they're not going for a more stable, fast, scalable, cost-effective platform like the XRP Ledger. You should just laugh because it is a loss for them, and it's kind of a dumb move actually. And because they're in direct competition with Ripple, they won't be giving Ripple the upper hand in order to take their business away. And that's quite obvious to me, and I don't understand why other people can't see it. Again, I might be wrong. I'm just enthusiast with a smartphone. But at the end of the day, the big organizations that Ripple's partnered with, the government bodies that are acquiring it as treasuries, all of those guys aren't going to suddenly dump and leave because Western Union or PayPal have picked a different partner. And as you can see, Ripple isn't even perturbed at all by any of this stuff. Every day now we just hear a new thing happen, new massive partnership. So I'm looking forward to a glorious November actually. I think that by mid-November, people are going to be so over all of this stuff that's happening now. People have forgotten, and there's a good chance that the shutdowns would be over, and we'll be off to the races. As usual, it's not financial advice, your own research. Peace out.